Nobody wants to hear this, but after 15 years on the road, I feel obligated to say it. The tent is not always your best option on a motorcycle trip. Not for your budget, not for your efficiency, and definitely not for your health. I know that this will make some people uncomfortable. Camping is part of the motorcycle culture. It looks great on pictures, sounds adventurous, and everyone seems to do it. But after 400,000 kilometers and more than enough nights spent in a tent, I want to show you the side of camping that nobody talks about. First, you have to set your priorities. If the main purpose of the trip is go camping, that is perfectly understandable. But if the goal is to see as much as possible from a specific country or place, then things are a little bit different. Also, the destination will determine whether you need a tent or not. On all of my trips, I always try to save money, simply because I don't have enough. Accommodation is one of the most efficient ways to do it, but it also has its own downsides. A tent can save you money, but at what cost? This is a question that not many people ask, especially if you have never been on a serious long trip before. First, it adds weight, and if your goal is to have at least some comfort, you will choose a tent for 2 people. It is a bit bigger, but you will have room for your clothes and the rest of your luggage. You will appreciate it, especially on rainy days. Most people never think about it, but if you leave your clothes and boots outside, they will be completely wet on the next morning. Single tents looks like coffins. Inside you have to sleep like this. They are perfectly fine for survival, but they are far from comfortable. With all of this in mind, you will finish with at least 5 kilograms. This will be the tent, the mattress, the sleeping bag, the pillow, and a few more small items. At least this is what I have. But if you add a few more things like stove, cooking gear, a small foldable chair and some food, you are looking at 8 kilograms minimum in your luggage. You might say that it is not that bad if it ensures some comfort. It does help, but it cannot be compared with a normal hotel room, even the cheapest one. People always connect tent with a perfect sunrise or sunset, but imagine rain or cold weather most of the time, extreme heat or very strong winds. The experience will be different, right? Nature does not care about you and your trip. You might say that you don't care as long as it saves you money, but let's now look at the actual numbers using as example Western Europe. Nightly costs regular season. Camping with a motorcycle and tent on official campsites is between 15 and 35 euros per night. Hostel dorm bed, shared room and bathroom is between 20 and 45 euros per night. Budget guest house, private room between 50 and 75 euros per night. In summer, expect all of this to cost significantly more. For 14 days, this means camping with a tent between 210 and 490 euros. Hostel dorm bed between 280 and 630 euros. Budget guest house between 700 and 1050 euros. And this is accommodation only. Food, petrol or everything else come on top. Just for comparison, the same 14 days in Central Asia will cost you between 130 and 280 for a hostel or basic guest house. Camping is largely free. Now you can see with your own eyes the price difference between West and East for only one of the costs: accommodation. Numbers never lie. When you actually see them, things look very different. Yes, definitely tent is cheaper in Western Europe compared to hotels and guest houses, but for that purpose you have to use the official campsites. Yeah, but I can always do a wild camping and I'm not gonna pay anything, but most people don't know that in 90% of the countries around Europe it is completely forbidden and it might be a big problem if someone catch you. I can tell you for sure that countries like Germany, Switzerland, Italy, Spain, Portugal, France, camping is absolutely illegal and strictly forbidden. And if someone catch you, man, it's a big problem. You cannot just open your tent whatever you like. It is not that simple. I did it in a few places in Spain, but I opened the tent later in the evening and in the next morning I started while it was still dark to avoid problems. In some places like Corsica and Sardinia, for example, the consequences are serious. Wild camping is strictly forbidden. You can face heavy fines and real problem with the local authorities. These are not empty threats. People get caught. So when you travel around Europe with your tent, you cannot just open it whatever you like. Oh, this river is nice, I'm gonna put it here. Or I like this forest, I'm gonna have it here. No, absolutely not. You're tied to the official campsites, which means you have to plan your route around them, arrive before they close, and pay every single night. Most of them will ask you to check out before 11 a.m. like the hotels. So the freedom you imagined, it's actually a strict schedule. Alright, let's now talk about efficiency. If you use a tent, you will travel more slowly. Let me explain why. Every morning you have to wait at least 2 hours after sunrise for tent to dry completely before you fold it and pack it. Otherwise, it will be wet and smelly when you open it later that day. After a week without proper drying or ventilation, you will have mold inside. At that point, it is not comfortable anymore. 2 or 3 hours lost every morning, and this is the most productive time of the day. You're fresh, there is no traffic, just you and the sunrise. This also leads to a later stop. By the time you set up the tent and prepare a meal, it is already dark. No time to walk around, no time to explore. And even if you manage to arrive on time, the campsites are usually outside of the cities. So for everything that you need, for example, you want to make a sightseeing, to go to the town to see what they have, some museums or churches, whatever, you will need a bike. And I can tell you from my experience, after I spent 8, 10 or 12 hours on the saddle, the last thing that I would like is to put my gear again and ride motorcycle to the town. And then bring it back to the campsites and all of that stuff. I will just ignore it, go to sleep and continue the next morning. Let's now talk about comfort, because this is where things get really different. Some people say that they sleep better in a tent. And yeah, that might be true, but only if you have a perfect weather condition, quiet location, a nice sleeping gear, a big thick mattress to provide the comfort that you need, and if you ate well. But in my opinion, to have all of this on a motorcycle trip with unpredictable weather and luggage limitations, it's gonna be very difficult, if possible at all. It might look great on pictures and very adventurous, but the reality is always different. Let me tell you what happened to me in Turkmenistan in 2015. We went to the famous gas crater in Darvaza. Of course, we opened our tents to make a few pictures with the light on inside to look better, but the actual place where we spent the night was about 300 meters away, first because it is too hot, second because of the poisonous gases. That night we had just a little bread and cheese. The water was too hot to drink properly. The temperature was over 38 degrees and we didn't sleep at all. The next morning, already tired, we went out on the road, and 300 meters away there was a guest house with air conditioning, cold water and proper food. This is the part that no one shows you on social media, but there is more. Food delusion. Without the necessary recovery, which means a good quality sleep and a proper nutrition, your body will exhaust itself much faster. Eating cheap garbage food just to save money is not an option at all. You will drain your body very fast and you will notice it in the way you focus on the road. The same applies to the most prefabricated camping food, which on top of everything is not even cheap. People laugh at me because on my trips I eat 5 eggs every day, but they're about 10 times better than a bowl of cereal or packaged soup. You need a food with a real nutrition value. The best sources are local places, simple, fresh and usually cheaper than anything that comes in a packet. So yes, you can save money by sleeping in a tent, but it will come at the expense of your own health. So what is my recommendation? As I told you already, if the main purpose of the trip is camping, the tent makes perfect sense. Use it and enjoy it. But if your goal is to travel efficiently, see as much as possible, preserve your health and arrive in good condition every day, think carefully before you commit to the tent as your main accommodation. Consistently uncomfortable conditions slowly ruin motivation. There is a point where the discomfort stops being adventure and starts affecting your judgment. You don't need to reach that level. Spending the night in a tent might look like a real pleasure when you are at home, but after 8 or 10 hours on the saddle, it feels more like a punishment. You need flexibility, not dogma. Spend where it matters, cut where it doesn't. If this video changed how you think about tent, you might consider my online course Adventure Riding Without Illusions. It will show you everything you thought you knew about motorcycle travel in completely different angle. You can find it in the description down below. Anyway, that is everything for today. I hope that this video will help to at least one person. Press like or dislike, whatever it deserves. If you subscribe, even better. Check the links below and see you in the next video. Ciao!